So they want to go to social media and they want to, post up and, be real messy. I can get real messy with them. I know people say, you know what, don't stoop to their level. Sometimes you got to stoop to the level to let them know, baby, it's going down.
Prosecutors say the murder is connected to a drug deal gone wrong and are now seeking a $1 million bond. And from what we can find, he is currently not in custody.
On November 5th, 2025, a seemingly ordinary morning when Sherry Dawson, a 33-year-old mother of 5, went to pick up some belongings from a storage facility in Northeast Houston. Little did she know, this routine errand would be her last. She was followed to the facility by a man with a deadly intention, Kip Stitz, who had a personal vendetta, one rooted in a botched illegal deal that would spiral into a violent act of vengeance. Sherry Dawson's death wasn't just an act of random violence. It was the result of a calculated retaliation that targeted the wrong person. As police would later discover, her husband, Matthew Josso, had been involved in a failed illegal deal that left Kip cheated out of a significant sum of money. Unable to reach Josso, Kip Stitz decided to strike at someone else, Sherry Dawson, a mother who had no part in her husband's illegal dealings. This tragic event sheds light on the far-reaching consequences of being involved in criminal activity, even when you're not directly participating in the crimes. Before we revisit that devastating moment that altered everything, let's step back to understand how Sherry's path led here, because it's often the situations that appear harmless that hide the greatest danger.
Some parents cannot afford their children to get book bags and send them to school with decent stuff, so I take the time to take my personal cash to spend on the kids to make sure they got what they need to go back to school. I'm really just a backseat man. She do everything. All this, she puts this together. 80% really goes to, I give it to the man above, and I give 20% for her. I'm just really just here.
Sherry Lynn Dawson was born on March 20th, 1998 in Houston, Texas. She was 33 years old when her life was tragically taken. Sherry led a relatively private life, far removed from the underworld of crime and whatnot that her common-law husband, Matthew Josso, was involved in. Those close to her described her as a loving mother of 5 children and a woman who kept a low profile, focusing on her family rather than seeking attention or notoriety.
You got no flash, no flash, no flash. Black. This is my movie show. Yes, it is. Can you see me?
What's up?
Details about Sherry's work and day-to-day life remain sparse, but it is clear that her priority was her children. She always strives to create a peaceful life for her family. She was not involved in her husband's illegal substance activities, a fact that would later become a crucial point in the investigation following her death. Her involvement in her husband's dealings was limited to living in the same household, and according to her husband, she was completely unaware of the fraudulent substance deal that set the tragic events into motion. What's particularly tragic about Sherry's death is that she wasn't targeted because of something she had done. Rather, she became the victim of someone else's criminal actions. It was a decision made by a man named Kip Stitz, who was seeking revenge on her husband, and she was an unintended, innocent target. But who was Kip Stitz, and why was he seeking revenge that would tragically take Sherry's life? Sherry's life was taken on the morning of November 5th, 2025, when she arrived at a storage facility located at 6400 East X Freeway in Houston. It was supposed to be a simple errand. She was just retrieving some belongings from the unit. But while she was inside, the man who had been seeking revenge was waiting for her. That man was 57-year-old Kip Stitz, a man from Detroit, Michigan, who had a violent criminal history and a pattern of engaging in illegal activities. Kip Stitz built a reputation as a man who could turn ambition into reality. He had launched several successful ventures, authored books that chronicled his climb from poverty into the real estate world, and even brought his creativity to the stage with Scattered Hearts, a play that premiered at Detroit's Music Hall in 2017. His works, including The Perfect Storm and Double the Trouble, reflected both his struggles and his determination to rise above them. In The Perfect Storm, Kip portrayed himself as someone who transformed street hustle into a legitimate multi-million-dollar empire. But his success would be derailed by betrayal. A partner he trusted manipulated financial accounts, siphoning more than $6 million, and shifted company records into Oakland County's conservative business district. For Kip, already burdened with a criminal record, the legal system became an uphill battle, leaving him with little chance of recovering what was lost. The fallout led to a decade of hardship, a dark period that nearly erased his accomplishments. Yet Kip eventually re-emerged, determined to share his side of the story. His former partner, also a serial entrepreneur, later shared her thoughts.
Yeah, why they, running around here? I know Big Mike, Kip Stitz helped Jessica Powell Wiggins. That's the one in my book. Help Jasmine. They got with the enemy to get on. But they still use my connect to get on. Let them know I already know. I'm 10 steps ahead of them. That's why I put 70K plus in my actual marketing campaign. But guess what? I'm glad they did that because they let me know their true colors. So they want to go to social media and they want to, post up and, be real messy. I can get real messy with them. I know people say, you know what? Don't stoop to their level. Sometimes you got to stoop to a level to let them know, baby, it's going down. I'm still going to get money with or without you. You forgot, baby. You used to borrow money from me. I showed y'all the game. So take that little game and do something with it, because that's all the game y'all ever going to get from me.
But she wasn't the only one who had faced prison time and managed to rebuild her life. Kip did too. His journey echoes figures like Toni Welsh from BMF, who served her sentence and later reinvented herself in legitimate business. Kip's past was marked by multiple convictions, including offenses tied to drugs, weapons, and aggravated assault. Despite that history, he worked to redirect his energy into legal ventures. What set him apart was his commitment to giving back. In Detroit, Kip became known for his generosity, especially toward children. Each school year, he provided backpacks, supplies, and even cash to help kids prepare for classes. He earned a reputation as someone the community could lean on, a figure who seemed ready to step in whenever help was needed.
I am bringing greetings this afternoon from Stitz Productions. Today we're having a back-to-school book bag drive. This is our second annual book bag drive giveaway. This event was put together for the community, obviously, and this is to help our children get a head start going back to school. As you know, we have some families that are less fortunate and they can't get their children the proper things that they need to get them a fresh head start for school.
The younger youth is the ones who's going to represent us when we get older. So I try to put different events together, such as this one itself, to give the kids a little motivation, a little inspiration. Some parents cannot afford their children to get book bags and send them to school with decent stuff. So I take the time to take my personal cash to spend on the kids to make sure they got what they need to go back to school. My wife is amazing. My wife is everything. Without her, this couldn't be possible. I'm really just the backseat man. She does everything. All of this, she put this together. 80% really goes to, I give it to the man above, and I give 20% for her. I'm just really just here.
Kip often insisted that his work was never driven by money. He claimed his efforts were about passion, vision, and community. Yet after being deceived and losing thousands, his perspective shifted. Suddenly, finances became the focus, and the pursuit of money took center stage. Just a month before Sherry's murder, Kip had paid Sherry's husband, Matthew Jasso, $125,000 for a shipment of a popular illegal substance. The deal fell apart when the drugs never arrived, and Matthew disappeared, cutting off all communication with Kip. This left Kip with no choice, or so he thought, but to get even. Unable to locate Matthew, he turned his wrath towards Sherry, who had no involvement in the drug deal at all. Kip traveled from Detroit to Houston, where he began surveilling Sherry's movements. He tracked her down to the storage facility, where, after some planning and waiting for the right moment, he confronted her. Surveillance footage from the facility captured the moment her vehicle arrived, and shortly after, Kip's vehicle, a white F-250, followed her in. Within minutes, the attack took place. There was no struggle, no warning. Kip shot Sherry multiple times, targeting her head, neck, and arms with close-range gunfire. Afterward, he quickly fled the scene, leaving her lifeless body behind. The shooting was swift, and there was no hesitation in his actions. The crime was calculated and executed with cold precision. Stitz's choice to kill Sherry instead of the man he was angry at speaks volumes about the level of intent involved. It wasn't a random act, it was an act of vengeance, deliberately chosen. The shock of Sherry Dawson's death reverberated through her family, friends, and community. What started as a typical day quickly turned into a devastating tragedy. As authorities responded to the reports of gunshots at the storage facility, the investigation began to unfold rapidly. Houston police officers arrived at the scene at approximately 10:15 a.m. on November 5, 2025, following calls of gunfire at the self-storage facility. When they arrived, they found Sherry's lifeless body lying near her vehicle, surrounded by a pool of blood. The brutality of the crime and the apparent execution-style nature of the attack raised immediate red flags. Sherry had been shot multiple times in her arms, neck, and head, suggesting an intent to kill rather than injure or intimidate. This was not a robbery gone wrong. This was a cold-blooded murder, with a clear motive rooted in the criminal activities of her husband, Matthew Jasso.
In the immediate aftermath, police interviewed Sherry's husband, Matthew Jasso, who confirmed that his wife had gone to the storage unit to collect a few belongings. When she failed to return within the expected time, he grew concerned and decided to check on her. It was at the storage facility that he made the devastating discovery. He also shared something chilling with investigators. He told investigators that he had been involved in a failed illegal substance deal. He acknowledged his role as a middleman who had arranged the transaction between Kip and a supplier, and he confirmed that Kip had handed over $125,000 for an illegal substance that never arrived. Matthew cut off all communication with Stitz after the deal fell apart, knowing that Kip was now looking for him. However, despite this knowledge, Matthew never reported the threat to authorities. He did not warn his wife or take any steps to protect her, even though he was aware of the danger his actions had placed them in. This decision to remain silent, either out of fear, arrogance, or a belief that Kip would never find them, set in motion a chain of events that ultimately led to Sherry's murder. Matthew Jasso never notified the police, nor did he make any attempt to remove his family from harm's way. As a result, Sherry was left completely unaware of the danger she was in. Her routine that morning seemed normal, and she had no reason to believe anything was out of the ordinary. Tragically, her normal life was about to be forever interrupted by someone seeking revenge. Could it be that Matthew never intended to show up himself, but instead sent his wife to the storage unit under the pretense of needing something picked up? Remember, she was said to have no knowledge of what was going on and was completely unaware of Matthew's dealings. If Matthew knew that someone powerful with money and influence was after him, why wouldn't he warn his family? Why wouldn't he protect them before things spiraled out of control? Kip Stitz's actions in the days leading up to the murder showed just how carefully he planned his retaliation. Investigators later discovered that Kip traveled from Detroit, Michigan to Houston in early November 2025. While the exact date of his arrival is unclear, phone records confirm that Kip was in the Houston area in the days leading up to Sherry's murder. Surveillance footage at the storage facility confirmed that he was there as well.
Kip did not immediately approach Sherry or confront her in public. He waited. He knew exactly where she would be and at what time. Surveillance footage shows Sherry's car entering the facility around 10 a.m., followed by Kip's white Ford F-250 moments later. Kip was in position and ready to execute his plan. He waited for the right moment, ensuring there were no witnesses around before he made his move. Surveillance footage showed him exiting the facility minutes after the murder. He didn't try to conceal his vehicle or change his appearance. Kip had planned the murder, carried it out, and then left Houston immediately, traveling north to Detroit. His phone records showed he made it back to Michigan by the following evening, covering the distance between the two cities, roughly 1,200 miles, in less than 24 hours. His speed and lack of hesitation suggested that he was following a premeditated plan, not fleeing in panic.
A Detroit man is now charged with in a shooting in Texas. Investigators say he went back to Michigan within hours. 57-year-old Kip Stitz is accused of fatally shooting a woman at a Houston area storage facility in November, then returning to Detroit the next evening. Court records show phone data placed Stitz at the scene and later tracked his trip back to Michigan. Prosecutors say the murder is connected to a drug deal gone wrong and are now seeking a $1 million bond. And from what we can find, he is currently not in custody.
Despite having his identity, vehicle information, and phone records, Kip Stitz evaded capture. The manhunt for him began immediately, but the police faced the challenge of tracking down a fugitive who had crossed state lines. As of January 2026, Kip Stitz remained at large, even though an arrest warrant had been issued and his case had garnered national attention. After the murder, Sherry's family was left reeling. They knew who had committed the crime, and the evidence was irrefutable, yet Kip was not in custody. The police had issued an arrest warrant, but 2 months had passed since the murder, and the investigation seemed to stall. It became evident that the process of tracking down a fugitive who had fled across state lines was more complicated than anticipated.
And a woman in mid-morning at a storage facility, and police say it appears to have been an act of vengeance. Investigators say the victim was followed to the lot off the East Tex Freeway near the North Loop in November. ABC 13's Luke Jones is on this story tonight. And Luke, police recently identified a suspect, and they say this all involves a botched 6-figure drug deal the victim's husband also admitted to being part of.
Yeah, of course, we know that now, but back up to 2 months ago when she was first down, it all seemed so random at the time. A lot of folks wondering who would do this and why. Well, now we're learning police knew almost right from the get-go. A story of friendship, business dealings, and double dealing outlined in court documents that all culminated in a North Houston woman's death. 33-year-old Sherry Dawson down at this storage unit along the East Tex Freeway November 5th, and now months later, police have charged a Detroit man, Kip Stitz, with Stitz, police say, a friend and business associate of Dawson's common-law husband. The same day as Dawson's police say her husband came forward and told them about Stitz. According to court documents, he said he introduced Stitz to a cocaine supplier, and when Stitz told him he was planning to rob the supplier, the husband of the supplier hatched a plan to steal from Stitz. Police say the husband told them about a month before the murder, Stitz paid him $125,000 for a shipment of coke, which he and the supplier never delivered. According to charging documents, the husband told investigators about 2 weeks before the murder, he got word that Stitz was looking for him, and that he believes his wife was because he stole money from Stitz. Police say surveillance video shows the victim pulling into this storage lot the morning of November 5th. She's followed through the gate by a truck police say Stitz was driving. Officers note for a whole 2 minutes, both vehicles engage in stopping, reversing, and turning around. A minute later, the victim falls to the ground. The suspect walks over to her, and a fight ensues. The victim gets up, but then falls down again, and the suspect takes off in his truck. Police pulled over a different vehicle registered to Stitz later that day, but Stitz wasn't in the car. Investigators say his phone began pinging in Detroit the next day, but 2 months later, he still hasn't been captured. Luke Jones, ABC 13, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, Matthew Jasso, Sherry's husband, was not immune to public scrutiny.
While he admitted his role in the failed drug deal and knew of the potential danger his wife was in, his decision to not involve law enforcement or take protective measures for his family was widely criticized. He had defrauded a dangerous man and in doing so, put his family at risk. Yet despite his silence and inaction, it was Sherry who paid the ultimate price. One of Sherry's sisters stepped forward with her own perspective, offering insight into what she believed truly happened and who Matthew really was. According to her, Matthew had been living on the run for years, involved in shady dealings, and she claimed he deliberately sent Sherry into danger so he could profit from her death. As of now, Matthew's whereabouts remains unknown. Her sister went further, saying, that wasn't all. In another post she would share, the lack of accountability for Kip Stitz's actions only deepened the pain for Sherry's family, who had to grapple with the loss of a loved one while knowing that the person responsible for her death was still on the run. It became increasingly clear that this case was not only about the death of one woman, but also about the failure of individuals to protect the people closest to them. Sherry Dawson was a victim of a betrayal she never saw coming. As the months dragged on with no arrest, the public began to apply pressure. The Houston community, Sherry's family, and even individuals following the case across the country grew frustrated with the lack of progress. Social media platforms became a place for her family and supporters to rally for justice. They took to Facebook, urging anyone with information to come forward. The post garnered significant attention, not only from the local community, but from people around the nation who were appalled by the lack of action in the case. Despite the growing outcry, Kip Stitz remained elusive. His whereabouts were unclear, and he had seemingly vanished into thin air. This left Sherry's family with more questions than answers. How could someone with such a clear trail of evidence escape justice for so long? As time continued to pass, Sherry Dawson's family faced the unrelenting weight of their grief. While the justice system moved at a glacial pace, the pain of losing her remained ever present. For Sherry's children, the absence of her mother was something they would have to live with forever. At just 33 years old, Sherry had been a mother, a daughter, and a sister, someone who had so much life ahead of her. But her life was cut tragically short because of one man's greed and vengeance. Her loved ones were left to pick up the pieces. They were forced to navigate the daily reality of life without Sherry. No more phone calls, no more shared memories, and no more moments of laughter. Her absence created an undeniable void in their lives, one that could never be filled. The emotional toll was staggering, especially for her children, who now had to learn how to live without the guiding presence of their mother. Sherry Dawson's case underscores the consequences of bad choices and how those decisions can spill over into the lives of people who are uninvolved. Her husband, Matthew Jasso, was involved in a shady world of drug dealing, but Sherry was not. She had no part in the betrayal, no knowledge of the deal gone wrong, yet she paid the ultimate price because someone couldn't reach the man responsible for wronging them. This case serves as a harsh reminder of the ripple effect that illegal activity has, not just on those involved, but their families, their communities, and society at large. Sherry's death was not a random act of violence. It was the result of a failed illegal deal, a fraudulent transaction that escalated into murder. Kip Stitz, unable to track down the person who had wronged him, chose instead to take revenge on someone close to him, the wife of the man who had betrayed him. The fact that he chose to target an innocent woman who had no part in the crime speaks volumes about the kind of person he was. He didn't just kill for revenge, he killed to send a message, but in doing so, he destroyed an entire family. The case also highlights the failures of those who had the ability to protect Sherry. Her husband knew the danger and chose to ignore it. He didn't alert the authorities, he didn't take steps to protect his family, and he allowed his wife to become a target. The failure here was not with the police or the justice system, but with the individual who had the power to protect Sherry, her own husband. He made the choice to not act, and that inaction cost her life. In the wake of Sherry's death, the community of Northeast Houston, where Sherry lived, came together to mourn the loss of a mother, a daughter, and a sister. Many attendees wore her favorite color as a symbol of love and unity, creating a powerful visual tribute to the woman they cherished.
Candles were lit, prayers were shared, and heartfelt messages were told, each one painting a picture of Sherry's kindness, resilience, and the impact she had on those around her. The gathering was not only a moment of mourning, but also a demonstration of strength as her loved ones came together to demand justice and keep her memory alive. Sherry was not just a victim of a senseless crime. She was someone who had made a difference in the lives of those she loved. Her funeral, held in mid-November 2025, was a somber affair. Family members and friends gathered to say their final goodbyes, remembering Sherry for her infectious spirit and the love she had for her children. The service was filled with emotional tributes, songs, and heartfelt messages, as those who knew her tried to find some measure of comfort in a world where their lives had been irrevocably changed. In many ways, Sherry's death represents the hidden costs of the illegal substance trade and how that decision spills over into the lives of the individuals directly involved, but their families, their communities, and society at large. Sherry's death was a direct result of the choices made by her husband and Kip Stitz. It wasn't just the life of one woman that was taken. It was the dreams and aspirations of a family who now had to rebuild their lives without her. Despite the sorrow, Sherry's family remained determined to see justice through. They continued to support one another and hope one day Sherry would get justice. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.